Hi, I'm Kathy Nunez Hair on Instagram. Today we're going to be doing lived-in layers and luxury waves. On our model, she just had a fresh install of hand-tied extensions, so we want to maintain her beautiful length but create some beautiful texture and movement, and then show her how she can style this hair at home. So we're going to start by making sure she's sitting up nice and straight and then looking down all the way. We want to establish a nice perimeter and see how everything is laying. It looks really nice right now. One thing with extensions, especially with a fresh install, is I like to keep as much length as possible so in the future she can come in and have a little bit trimmed when she comes in for her color appointments. When I'm cutting extensions, I like to keep everything down. I don't like to do sectioning. I want to see where all of the hair is living at all times. So I might just push the front forward a little bit so I can bring it back whenever I need to. Make sure they're looking down all the way when you're cutting that perimeter. I'm bringing all of the middle section down, very light tension. And then I'm just going to point cut just to clean up this line a little bit. I want everything to lay very softly. I'm gonna make sure my section is coming from behind her ear, pulling it back. Point cutting into this perimeter. I always like to use a nice wide tooth comb when I'm cutting extensions so everything combs very easily. There's no tension on the hair. Beautiful. If everything looks good, then I'll move into the sides. For her side sections, I like her to have her head straight and then tilt slightly away from me. And then I'm just going to tie the side in with the back. Really nice and soft. Other side. So make sure your head's kind of straight, tilt side a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna have her hold her head up, just how it is, nice and straight. Make sure I like the way that perimeter looks. Looks gorgeous. So then I'm gonna have her face me so we can see where her hair needs to tie into the extension hair. We wanna create a little bit of layer. If you shake it out a little bit, you'll see where her hair is falling out and where we need to connect. So you can do this with whatever tool you're comfortable with. Sometimes I'll use my shears. If I need to remove a lot or make quite an angle, I will use my razor as well. I'm just going to go in and really softly start to connect through here, shaking her hair out because I don't want to cut her hair. And then very gently sliding it down. If you open and close your shears very gently, it'll make a nice little cut. So we're starting to see this come together. I'm not going to go too crazy yet. I want to see the whole hair come together as one. Shake her hair out of there. And then very gently start to get some movement in these sides. Okay, I'm going to leave that nice and soft, and then we're going to start with some layering, tying in where her natural hair falls and the extensions start. We want to start connecting this a little bit. So I like to take sections round off of the top of the head. Keeping everything nice and vertical. So this will really show us where we need to start connecting here. So we can see we need to create some connection through here, but we don't want to take out too much of the extension. So we're just going to start point cutting into this. Just starting a little bit of a connect. Okay, just starting a little bit of a guide for where we want to start this connection. Staying behind the ear. So I'm actually going to be feeling with my finger where her ear is so I can connect with my finger. So I make sure I stay behind her ear. Okay, I'm going to keep going with my guide. Starting a tiny bit of a connection. Finding her ear. Okay, now that I've started a little bit of a connection here, I'm going to go in and use my razor. I am going to start this connection here, so we're going to leave her bottom alone. Let that drop out, just like you would if you were doing traditional layers. And I'm just going to very softly start to create some little layers in here, working it down nice and gently because you want to take a little bit at a time. Less is always more with extensions. You just put all this hair in, so you want to keep as much hair on the head as possible. So we're going to let that bottom drop out. Start connecting down, blending. We want to see her texture and the texture of the extensions start to behave very similarly. Right now you can see she has a lot of natural texture in her hair and there's not a lot going on down here. So we want, when she lets her hair air dry, we want to make sure the texture is matching as much as possible. So we don't want to drop off of texture. We can see that's where her hair stops. We started a little guide here. And then I'm staying behind her ear. This will be the last section behind the ear on this side. Let the bottom drop out and create some layers. We want to create movement and texture. Going back and doing the same thing on the other side, right behind her ear. Letting the bottom drop. And then creating some movement. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. So we want to keep that going through the sides. Look up a little bit for me. So when I'm working on the back, I want her head forward. When I'm working on the sides, I usually have them hold their chin up and look in the mirror straight so you can see exactly how it's laying when they're standing. So for her hair by her face, I'm going to direct it back a little bit. You can see where her hair's stopping. We're going to shake some of that out. And then I'm going to go in and really softly add a little bit of texture through here. I want to keep the layers by the face nice and long. That's why I'm directing them back a little bit. Then I can go in and do her face frame by itself. Okay, you can see where her texture is coming through on the bottom here, and then it stops on the side. So we want to keep that going. I'm going to start by her ear. Make sure her perimeter is dropping out. And now I've reached her side here, so I'm going to direct it back again. We want to keep everything nice and soft, not take away too much hair, but also create a lot of movement. Really get your hands in their hair, move it around a lot, make sure everything's laying really nice. I'm going to go in and add a little bit more texture. Okay, I'm going to have you look at me again. Okay, so you can see she's starting to look connected here, but she still needs a little bit more softness through her sides. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did with my shears, but I'm going to go in with my razor just so it adds a little more texture through her sides here. Pull it forward, let her hair drop out. So I'm really pulling everything from in front of her hair forward at this point. And you have to be the artist and just go in. Once you establish your perimeter and your layers, that's when you want to just start looking and seeing where you want to see a little more texture, where you want to see a little more movement. It depends also on how they're going to be styling their hair at home. Are they going to be curling their hair a lot? Are they going to wear it straight all the time? These are questions that you want to ask in your consult. I want to make sure she's able to use this gorgeous wave, her natural wave, that she can wear it and just let them air dry. These extensions have a nice little texture as well, so I think she'll be able to have such a versatile look. She'll be able to wear her natural texture, put a little bit of styling cream, or go in with her curling iron or flat iron, as long as she uses her heat protectant. Usually when I do a new install and I show my clients in the mirror, they're like, oh my gosh, it's so long. So I always tell them it is long. We just put in, obviously, a ton of hair. You want to make sure you leave them with enough hair that they can maintain it at their appointment. So let them know that they have to get used to it a little bit. If they still want it cut, they can always come in at their next appointment and get a little more cut off. But they're going to be happy they have that extra length there, especially if they're one to use the curling iron. Now, if their hair is really thick and you can see still after you're blending, you can see a little bit of heaviness through here, there's a couple of things you can do. I like to go in and just texturize it a tiny bit. Sometimes I'll use my texture shears, sometimes I'll just point cut a tiny bit. So I'm just going to go in a little bit and just soften the top layer of her hair a tiny bit. Obviously, we don't want to cut their hair too much, but sometimes you need to soften these ends just a tad. Just point cut a little bit. Just like you did on the extension hair, you want to keep everything nice and soft. No lines, no straight cuts. Just softening that up a tiny bit. Now we can see how much texture and movement she has through there. I really like how everything is looking. So if she's happy, I'm going to go ahead and style her. One of my favorite products that I like to use on my extension hair is the new Kenra Luxe Shine Oil. I don't know if you guys have tried it, but this is amazing. If you haven't, check it out. Just a little bit goes a long way. Pump it into your hand, work it through, and then I'll start from about chin down. You don't want to apply too close to the root area, really where we want to soften this up a little bit. So get your oil in there. Doesn't that smell so good? Yeah. And then you want to make sure you're getting it on these face framing pieces as well, just a little bit through here. It's better not to start around the face, 'cause that way you don't apply too much. She could already wear this and it looks great, but we're going to go in and create some more polished waves. I'm going to go in with a 1 1/4 inch barrel, keeping everything nice and vertical. I always leave these front pieces to address at the end, so I'm going to start right behind the front. Smoothing it about halfway. Giving it a couple of turns. And then smoothing through the ends. I don't want the ends to be straight, but I want them to be straighter than the rest. Her next piece, again, I'm going to do away from the face. When I get behind the ear, I'll start alternating a little bit. When we did her install, we knew that we wanted to create a lot of movement through these front layers. So her wefts are going to come up a little bit at an angle, which is going to create more hair over her face area, or you can tie into her face framing area. So we're still in front of her ear, making sure this is nice and smooth. And I'm making sure the hair is staying nice and flat in my iron. I like to kind of start where her hair and the extension hair are blending together. Twisting it through and then smoothing through those ends. Now that I've gotten to her ear, I'm going to do this section forward. Nice and smooth. And you definitely want to guide those ends through the iron. I'm going to be mostly alternating back and forth with forward and back waves, but there's no rule here. Be the artist. You create the movement where you want it. If their hair drops out, that's fine. Just let it drop out and you can address it later. Sometimes I'll even curl the extension hair and then go back in and curl their hair. Favorite products that I like to use for my extension clients is the Kenra Luxe line. It is a really small line that's very luxurious, lots of conditioning, which obviously you need for your extensions, the shampoo and conditioner, and then they have a really nice leave-in that I always recommend. And then of course the smoothing oil that you guys saw me put in before styling. I always tell my clients I do recommend putting the smoothing oil in on dry hair. Some people prefer it on wet hair, that's fine as well. I just think it styles better into the hair if you apply it on dry hair. And then you'll see I'll go in and style with some of the other Kenra products. One thing I like to do is make sure there's enough volume at the base. So we'll go in with some texture powder and just give it a little more movement. Okay, right now I'm at the last section before hitting the front of her ear. So I'm going to create this curl toward her face, and then everything from here forward, I'm going to curl away from her face. Again, I'm waiting until I get everything else curled to address right by her face so I can see exactly what I want to do there. If you wanted more of a beachy look, you don't have to be quite as mindful either about making sure that the hair stays nice and flat on the iron like I am. You can let it kind of wind around a little bit, and that'll give you a little bit different texture. But today I want everything to be a little bit more glam. So I want everything nice and smooth on the barrel. Okay, I have everything but the front section done. So I'm just going to let it kind of fold into the hair next to it. I usually leave the front a little bit softer. I'm going to pull it forward so I over direct it just a little bit to give her a little bit of that face frame wave. Smoothing through those ends. And at this point, I'm usually telling my clients how gorgeous they look, because they do. Usually they're kind of freaking out by now, which I love, when they get that little glimpse of how their hair is starting to come together and it's all new. That's the best. Okay, so I want to make sure everything cools down. Let her curls cool a little bit. Obviously, the side I started from is going to be nice and cool. Dry shampoo is your client's best friend, so make sure you let them know they need to leave the salon with dry shampoo. This is the Kenra Volume Dry Shampoo. I really like this one because it does absorb oil, but it also creates a little bit of volume. So I always shake my dry shampoos. You want to make sure you're putting it just right in that root area, right on top. You can kind of lift up, get underneath a little bit. And make sure they know that they do need to work it in. Just create a little more texture up here. One thing that I like to do as well is apply my dry shampoo before I go to bed so it absorbs the oil for the next day. Okay, so this is the new volumizing powder that Kenra just came out with. I love this on my extension clients as well, especially for this crown area. So I'm just going to lift up, get some in here. It's really fun. And work that in. This is almost like using a texture spray, but it's a texture powder instead. Okay, now that her curls have cooled, I'm going to go in and add a little bit more oil just through her midsection down. And this is where you can let them know also that the style is very versatile. If they want to just shake it out and go with more of a beachy look, then that's great. Today we're going to brush through it so you can see how it looks a little more luxurious. So we're just going to brush through, see what gorgeous waves we created. Also, let your client know to take care of their extensions. See how I'm just brushing right over the top of those rows that were just freshly installed? This is something you want them to be doing at home, is brushing through. A lot of times, especially if it's a brand new install, they're really scared to do this. And no matter how much I tell them, they come back the first time for their touch-up and they've got some tangling going on back here. So make sure they understand it's not delicate. Their install is solid and they can brush right over it, and you encourage them to. See how those waves are just coming together? And this style is going to last her for days, you guys, until she decides to wash her hair again. That's why I really encourage dry shampoo. She can use her curling iron and touch it up just a little bit in the morning, but let your clients know that with their extensions, they don't need to be washing their hair as often, and their styles are going to stay way longer. Also, your client is leaving looking amazing, so always encourage them to do a really sexy car selfie, tag you. That's gonna bring you more business. You can post about it all you want, but when your clients post about it, it's a whole new reach. Ooh, look at those gorgeous waves. You look so gorgeous. Okay, so I'm just going to go through and give her a really nice light spray, kind of scrunch it in with my hands. This is the Kenra 13, very soft hold. And now they're looking in the mirror and they're like, oh my God, I'm so amazing and beautiful. And now they just forgot everything that you told them. So I will make them look at me, go over everything again with them. So when you're at home, we want to be using really great shampoo and conditioner. I'm recommending the Kenra Luxe for at home. I'm recommending that you use a brush in the shower and comb the conditioner through before rinsing it out, and then you don't have to comb your hair after that, just the top section of your hair. If you're blow drying, you always want to use a heat protectant. This is a great one, the Blow Dry Spray by Kenra. Dry shampoo and brush that hair when it's dry. Okay, so that's it. We created beautiful lived-in layers and luxury waves, taught her how she can care for her extensions at home, and she's leaving the salon looking beautiful.